You did everything right. And you still ended up broke, not broke like can't afford Netflix broke like sitting in your car, doing mental math, trying to figure out if you have enough to cover rent and groceries, not both one. And the most painful part, you had money sitting right there in your savings account, untouched, protected, responsible. You followed every single rule they told you to follow, and the rules had quietly, slowly, politely destroyed you. Here's what we were all taught. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Build your emergency fund. Keep it liquid. Keep it safe. Don't touch it. That's the advice on every finance blog, every Reddit thread, every well-meaning parent conversation at the dinner table. And on the surface, it sounds completely logical. Of course you want a buffer. Of course you don't want to be caught off guard. Nobody argues with that. But here's what I want you to actually think about for a second. When was the last time someone sat down with you and explained why that rule exists, who it actually benefits, and what it costs you to follow it? Because millions of people follow it faithfully, proudly even. And when they finally look at the actual numbers, not the feeling, not the comfort, the actual math, they feel sick. Let's talk about that math right now. Let's say you've saved $15,000 in your emergency fund. That's real discipline. You should feel good about that effort. But here's what's happening to that $15,000 while you sleep. Inflation in the US has averaged around 3 to 4% over the last decade. Your savings account, if you're genuinely lucky, is earning 1%, maybe 1.5%. So every single year, that gap between what inflation takes and what your account earns is quietly eating your money, not dramatically, not in a way you'd notice on a Tuesday morning, just slowly, consistently, month after month. Over 5 years, that $15,000 loses roughly $1,500 to $2,000 in real purchasing power. You didn't spend it. You didn't lose it in the market. You protected it. And it still shrank. But here's the part that actually keeps people up at night. While your money sits there earning almost nothing, your bank takes that same deposit and lends it out. Mortgages at 6, 7, 8%. Personal loans at 12. Credit cards at 22. They take your $15,000, turn it into a product, and sell it back to people at 10 times the return they're giving you. You are the supplier, they are the business. And you're getting a supplier's cut of almost zero. This is not a conspiracy. This is just how banking works. But nobody explains it to you this way, because if they did, you might start asking questions they'd rather you didn't ask. Now here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, this is the part that changes everything. The emergency fund doesn't just trap your money. It traps your mind. When you do something that feels responsible, your brain rewards you. It releases a small hit of satisfaction, a quiet sense of, I'm handling it. I'm doing this correctly. I'm not like those people who have nothing saved. That feeling is real, and it is also dangerous. Because the moment your brain decides you've done the responsible thing, it quietly reduces your drive to keep going. You've checked the box, the anxiety drops. And without that anxiety pushing you, your financial momentum stalls. I've watched this happen in real time, in my own life and in people around me. They save the emergency fund, they feel secure, and then they just kind of stop. Not because they gave up, but because the urgency disappeared. And without urgency, most people don't make big moves. The emergency fund, for millions of people, is where financial ambition goes to feel responsible and then quietly disappear. There's something else happening too. The longer you hold on to that money, the more emotionally attached you become to it. It stops being a financial tool. It starts becoming part of your identity. I'm the kind of person who is prepared. I'm the kind of person who doesn't take stupid risks, and that identity, as good as it feels, can become a cage. Because every real wealth building strategy requires you to deploy capital, to put money somewhere it can grow, compound, generate returns. An emergency fund is permanently offline capital, and if your identity is tied to protecting it, you will find every reason not to move it. Now I want to be very clear about something. I'm not telling you to delete your savings account tomorrow. I'm not telling you to throw your emergency fund into some random investment at 2 in the morning. That is not the point. The point is this. Wealthy people don't think about security the way we were taught to think about it. Not because they're reckless, because they've built something different. A person with a well-structured investment portfolio, income-generating assets, or a credit line backed by real assets doesn't need $20,000 sitting completely idle. They have access to liquidity when they need it, through things that are also working for them when they don't need it. That is the actual difference. The middle class was given a rule: save cash. Keep it liquid. Don't touch it. Wealthy people were handed a system. Build assets that generate liquidity, so your money is always either working or accessible, never just parked. Rules keep you compliant. Systems build freedom. And the system is not complicated. It does not require being rich to start. It requires a different way of seeing what money is actually for. Money is a tool. Tools are meant to work. A hammer sitting in a drawer isn't protecting your house. It's just sitting there. So what does a smarter approach actually look like? First, keep a lean emergency buffer. Not zero, not nothing, but 1 to 2 months of essential expenses in a high-yield savings account, not a standard savings account. In 2024, high-yield accounts are offering 4 to 5% annually. That's not wealth building, but it's at least keeping pace with inflation. That's your baseline. Second, understand the difference between an emergency fund and a liquidity strategy. Wealthy people maintain liquidity through assets-in funds you can sell within days. A Roth IRA where you can withdraw contributions penalty-free. A brokerage account that earns 7 to 10% annually, but stays accessible. Your money is working and reachable at the same time. That is the goal. Third, invest the rest. Boring, consistent, automatic investing, S&P 500 index funds, low cost, long horizon. The historical average return is around 10% annually. Compare that to 1% in a standard savings account. Over 20 years, $10,000 invested becomes roughly $67,000. $10,000 sitting in savings becomes maybe $12,000 after inflation. The math is not subtle. The math is screaming forth. And this one is the most important. Redefine what security means to you. Real security doesn't come from a number sitting in an account. It comes from skills that are valuable, from income that doesn't depend entirely on one employer, from assets that generate returns while you sleep. That is durable security. A savings account balance is fragile security. It depends on the number never dropping, which means you can never really use it for anything. Here's what I want to leave you with. You were not taught to be wealthy. You were taught to be stable. Stable enough to keep showing up. Stable enough to keep spending. Stable enough to keep your money in accounts that fund other people's growth. And the painful irony is that the most financially disciplined people often fall deepest into this trap because they follow the rules perfectly, and the rules were never designed to make them free. The emergency fund is not your enemy, but the way most people practice it, treating it as an endpoint instead of a starting point, parking money for years without optimizing it, letting the comfort of it slowly kill their financial momentum. That version of the emergency fund is quietly one of the most expensive decisions millions of people make without ever realizing it. The shift is not from saving to recklessness. The shift is from fear-based saving to strategy-based building. One manages your anxiety. The other builds your future. You deserve a future, not just a feeling. Start asking better questions. The answers were always meant for you too.